Hey Sainers, welcome back to the Saints TV YouTube channel. We're going to continue on from the last video I did. We talked about the back line and what the back six would look in round one, so thank you to everyone who commented and shared their opinions on Twitter, on Facebook, and obviously on YouTube as well, where you're watching this video. The next one, we're going to go through the next section of the field, the midfield. That's the centre, and then we've got the wingers in there. I've put it out on Twitter, similar to the last video, to see your opinions, to see what you think. And it's I thought it was a bit more clear-cut than I guess what the comments showed. There's a lot of different variety. There's a lot of variations here, which is really good, and that shows, I guess, the depth that we're getting in the midfield. That's obviously, I guess, the weakest part of the ground. That's in the final against the Giants, where we were exploited, against Carlton, against some of these really strong midfields, Brisbane, Collingwood. That's where they got us in certain parts of games where we lost. And that's obviously the main focus in the off-season in terms of draft and trade. That's where we targeted very heavily. And I think we're fast improving that year on year. So obviously it's not the strongest midfield in the AFL, but I don't think by any means is it the weakest. And I think we bat a little bit deeper than what teams think. So let's go through some of these comments. I'll go through the comments first, and then I guess I'll give you my opinion on the midfield. It's still up in the air. Because we've just heard the news of Hunter Clark, who will be out for 4 weeks. So he should be okay for round one, but obviously that means pracky games. He won't get a go. And knowing Ross and the fact that he doesn't like to bring in underdone players, I think maybe Hunter Clark might play a bit in the VFL, but it remains to be seen. And then obviously Paddy Dow should be right for round one as well. But again, he's another name that will pop up no doubt in these comments to get into the midfield come round one against the Cats. So let's go straight off the bat. Mick says Marshall, Steele, Owens, Clark, Windhager, Henry, Hill. So that's interesting. Straight off the bat, no Crouch. So that's massive. I don't think that's possible, to be honest. I think Crouch, Steele, and Marshall are absolute locks in that midfield. So it's just the remaining positions there. Mason Wood, again, not making an appearance there, and I think he's a lock for a wing as well. Brett says Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Dow if fit, wings, Henry and Wood, Seb if Dow isn't fit, but I'd rather Windy. Geordie says centre line of Wood, Windy, Henry. Followers Marshall, Steele, Crouch. Duffman says Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Hill, Dow, Wood. And then he goes, can't wait for the preseason matches to see who plays where. I mean, that's going to be the telling point, is what Ross wants to do. But in training, there's a lot of different variety there. And it's hard to kind of lock down outside of Marshall, Steele, Crouch. To me, the other positions, I think it's up in the air. So Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Windy, Hill, Henry. That's from Brian. G. Mull says, based on availability, Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Henry, Windhager, Wood, Hill half forward, Clark, Jones, Dow, Ross for bench or sub. Marshall, Dow, Henry, Ross, Owens, Steele, Wilson. Again, no Crouch. People seem to forget Brad Crouch and how good he was last year. To me, he's a lock, isn't he? Hill and Wood on wing. Starting in the guts would be Marshall, Steele, Crouch, and Dow. Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Sinclair, Hill, and Henry on either wing. And then someone says, same as last year unless Dow can get on the park. Corey says, Marshall, Steele, Crouch, Windy, Wood, Henry, how good? And Lucky Last on Twitter. Adam says, Roma, Steele, Crouch, Sinclair, Wood, Henry. I think Ross has recently come out and talked about the fact that Sinclair is going to feature quite heavily off half-back. We are going to trial him through the midfield, but I think come the very first bounce, and this is what this is about. This isn't about just next year in general. It's about literally the first bounce against the Cats at GMHBA Stadium. What is the starting line and the wings? What's the midfield for and the wings going to look like? And I don't think Sinks is going to feature. I think we're going to see him off half-back. 100%. I think he's going to be there against the Cats to combat their forward half and to really exploit the fact that they're not quite quick. We want to rebound with Naz. I think he's going to go that. But we talked about the back line in the last video. This is the midfield. I think Adam's close. I think Marshall, obviously. I mean, do we even have to say that? Marshall, Steele, Crouch. So I know that in the midfield. I think on either wing, we're going to see Wood. And I would argue maybe a Hill, just based on training. Wood and Hill, senior, they are bloody awesome at what they do. They did the job for Ross last year. And if anything that we've learned from Ross of years gone by is, if you do a job for him, he will repay you and give you chance after chance after chance in that exact same position. If you do the job for him, he will, in his mind, I think he'll be like, there's no reason to change it, right? We won 19 in a row with minimal changes that year in 09. We didn't need to change anything because it all worked. And we had players like Clint Jones, Robert Eddy, and McQualter in the team. It's not like they were all stacked. We had some role players. And if you're a role player and you do a job, you get the role every week. Mason Wood's not a role player to me. He's a gun. I think he's a very good winger. He's top 5 wingers in the comp. And I think Brad Hill, over his career, has been one of the best wingers of the last 10 years. And I think last year we saw that he really did get his form back. And if anything, he looks even better this year based on training. So I think Liam Henry probably starts on the bench and comes onto the wing, or he starts high half forward and he can just have a line of Naz, Hill, and Henry on one side of the field, which would be just elite talent there. So yeah, for me, Roma, Steele, Crouch, Wood, Hill. Okay, that's the wings done. Roma, Steele, Crouch. Who goes in with them? I think if fit, I'm not sure if it's Paddy Dow, to be honest. I'd love to see Cheeto in there, but I think just for round 1, I think Cheeto starts forward pocket next to King. Who goes in there? I would have said Hunter Clark, to be honest. I would have said Hunter Clark, but now he's got this injury. So, and Dow as well. So, hypothetically, if they're not playing, I would probably say it'd have to be... Who would it be? It wouldn't be Filippo. Surely not. This is a tricky one. This is a really tricky one. If Dow's fit, he's in there. If If he's not fit, could it be Darcy Wilson? Couldn't be Darcy Wilson. Could he debut in the guts against the Cats in Geelong? I mean, that would be insane. But I feel like we can't have Seb Ross in there because it's too like for like. That's too slow. Still Crouch Ross. That is too slow. It needs to be Still Crouch Sinclair, Still Crouch Dow, Still Crouch Clark, Still Crouch Owens Filippo, Still Crouch Darcy Wilson. I'm going to leave that one open. I don't know. I'm going to put that in the comments, actually. Hypothetically, if Dow and Clark are not fit for round 1 and the starting midfield looks like Roma, Steele, Crouch, who gets that last spot in the guts? Is it Sinclair? Do we have to force Sinclair there if those players are absent? Or does Owens or Filippo, who's been training very heavily in the midfield in the off-season, does he get to go straight in the guts? Or do you bite the bullet and give it to a very, very quick player who hasn't played yet, Darcy Wilson, against a very senior Geelong midfield? Put in the comments, let me know, Saners. But that's the whole point of this video. It's very difficult to pick, but it's really exciting because there's still so many variations, and I absolutely love it. And we're getting so close to round 1, I can't wait. And I think the next video is going to be even more difficult than this one. I think the forward line's actually going to be quite tricky to lock down because there are quite a number of, you've got Caminiti, Sharman, but we'll talk about in the next video. But if you enjoy this video, Saners, please like it. If you haven't subscribed, it'd be amazing if you could. We're nearly on 10K, and I'd love to hit 10K before round 1. We're about a month off from that, so we've got 600 subs to go. That would be amazing. And most importantly, put in the comments your opinion. That's what I do these videos for. I love to have that back and forth, even if it's not just me to you, but everyone in the comments going back and forth with each other. It's just awesome to read, and I absolutely love it. So thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, and as always, go you mighty Saners. See you guys.